Listen to this when the going gets hard, and trust me, it will. That's not the time to fold. That's not the moment to break down and give in. No, that's the time to rise. That's the moment to dig deep, to reach down inside and grab hold of something bigger than pain, something stronger than fear. Your purpose. You see, life doesn't test the weak, it tests the ready, and even when you don't feel ready, the fire you walk through is there to make you ready. I know you're tired, I know you're doubting yourself, the voices in your head are loud and the world seems heavy, but let me remind you of one thing: diamonds are only formed under pressure, steel is only forged in fire. And champions, real champions, are born in the moments when everything in them screams, give up, and they choose instead to whisper, not yet. You were not put here to quit. You were not created to live small, break easy, or hide in the shadows. You've got something in you that this world hasn't seen yet, but the only way it's coming out is if you refuse to let hard times shut you down. Listen. Every setback is a setup for something greater. Every obstacle is training ground for your destiny. And every tear, every scar, every sleepless night, they're all bricks in the foundation of the life you're building. Don't curse the struggle, embrace it, learn from it, grow from it. Let it refine you, not define you. Success doesn't come to those who coast, it comes to those who climb, who show up broken and bruised and still say, I'm here. Because winners aren't born lucky, they're born resilient. They face storms, and instead of running, they walk into them. You've got power, you've got grit, and whether the world sees it or not, whether you feel it or not, you've got greatness inside you, but you've got to fight for it. You've got to hold the vision when the path is dark. You've got to keep the faith when the facts look hopeless. You've got to speak life over your dream even when the room is silent. This is not the end of your story. It's just a tough chapter. Don't stop here. Keep turning the page, because on the other side of this pain is power, on the other side of this struggle is strength, and on the other side of this storm is you stronger, wiser, unstoppable. So don't give up. Don't you dare give up. You're not done yet. Here are 5 key points for listen to this when the going gets hard. 1. Hard times don't break you. They build you. 2. Your struggle is proof that your breakthrough is near. 3. Champions are made when they keep going, not when it's easy. 4. Pain is temporary. Purpose is permanent. 5. You were born to rise, not retreat. 1. When the going gets hard, the natural instinct is to shrink, to pull back, to retreat into a space of comfort and safety. It's a deeply human response after all. Who enjoys struggle, who welcomes pain, obstacles, delays, or disappointments with open arms? Not many. But here's the truth that most people never realize until they're knee deep in adversity. Hard times don't break you, they build you. Think about that for a second. Every time life throws a curveball your way, every time things fall apart when you expected them to fall into place, there's something happening beneath the surface, something deep, something powerful, something most folks overlook because all they can focus on is the pain. But if you pause just for a moment and zoom out, you'll notice something remarkable. You'll see that the struggle is not just a test. It's a transformation. See, comfort is a nice place, but nothing grows there. Strength doesn't come from ease. Grit doesn't come from luxury. Character doesn't come from winning all the time. No, these things are forged in the fire of difficulty. They are molded when you're facing nights full of questions and days full of effort that doesn't seem to be paying off. They're built when you keep showing up even though the odds are stacked, even though your energy is low, even though nobody's clapping for you. There's a common illusion people carry that successful individuals had it easy, that they were simply born with some magical advantage, but peek behind the curtain and you'll find a long trail of hardship. What separates those who make it from those who don't is never the absence of difficulty, it's their relationship with it. The ones who rise understand that hardship is not the enemy, it's the furnace. When steel is refined, it's not pampered, it's not spoken to gently, it's heated, bent, hammered, shaped, tested. That's what gives it its strength, and in much the same way, life applies heat to you. It pressures you, confronts you, and at times even seems to beat you down, but all for the purpose of making you unbreakable. It's not here to destroy your spirit. It's here to reveal it. You can't discover what you're made of by walking an easy road. You learn your real strength when everything in your life feels uncertain, when doors close, when plans fail, when people walk away. That's when you find out what's really inside of you, not when things are smooth, but when you're standing in the storm and still refuse to fold. That's when you become someone new, not a victim of life, but a master of it. And let's be honest, there's no wisdom without wounds. The people who speak with power, with presence, with insight, they've been through something. They've walked through fire. They've had nights where they questioned everything but still kept going, and that's why their voice hits different. That's why their eyes hold depth, because they didn't run from the struggle. They leaned into it. So if you're walking through a hard season, don't see it as the end. It's not a signal to give up. It's an invitation to level up. It's life saying, let's see what you're really made of. And the best part, you don't even have to have all the answers. You just have to keep moving. You just have to refuse to quit. Most people never reach their full potential not because they aren't capable, but because they run the moment life gets hard. They expect progress to be linear, predictable, and painless, but growth isn't like that. It's messy, it's tough, and sometimes it looks like you're going backward. But if you stay the course, if you choose to see difficulty as training rather than punishment, you'll rise stronger and wiser than you ever imagined. There's an old saying that you don't get the fruit without climbing the tree. Well, in life, you don't get the power without walking through the pressure. You don't develop emotional muscle without lifting the weight of disappointment, fear, or failure. The version of you that's built through hard times is far more powerful than the one created through ease. You might not feel it now, but the struggle you're facing is sculpting you. The tears, the tension, the unanswered prayers, they're chiseling away the weak parts, forcing you to grow, to adapt, to become more. You're being stretched so your capacity can increase, so your soul can expand, so your mindset can sharpen, and when you come out the other side, and you'll be grateful not that it was easy, but that it changed you. Everyone wants growth, but few want the grind. Everyone wants to shine, but few want the storm. But the storm is where the real work happens. It's where the roots grow deep. It's where your courage gets tested and your purpose becomes clear. So don't curse the hard times. Don't run from them. Let them do their work in you, because one day you'll look back at this chapter, not with regret, but with respect. You'll remember the nights you didn't think you'd make it, the mornings you wanted to stay in bed, the days that felt like dead ends, and you'll smile not because it was fun, but because it formed you. It gave you the strength, the voice, the insight that only hard times can give. And no one can take that from you, not now, not ever too. Your struggle is proof that your breakthrough is near. Most people don't see it that way, though. They feel the weight, the pressure, the frustration, and all they can think about is how to make it stop. But what they don't realize is that struggle is often the last gatekeeper before the reward. It's not there to block you forever. It's there to see if you're serious. It's there to see if what you want is just a wish or a decision. You see, there's a pattern life follows, a rhythm if you listen closely, and that rhythm always sounds the same. First comes the desire, then the delay, then the difficulty, and right after that, the door opens. But most people give up at the difficulty stage. They say, it's too much, it's too hard, maybe this dream wasn't meant for me. But that's where they're wrong. The intensity of the struggle is evidence that the dream is real. You're not under attack because you're weak. You're being challenged because you're close. Think about this. When do you feel the most pressure? It's not when you're wandering with no direction. It's when you're actually trying to make a change. When you decide to go after something meaningful, that's when resistance shows up. That's when doubts creep in. That's when your fears scream louder. But here's the secret. All of that noise, it's a signal, not of failure, but of progress. When rockets launch into space, the most friction they face is right at takeoff. That's where the atmosphere pushes back the hardest, and in the same way, when you're rising, when you're about to step into a new level, that's when life throws everything it can at you. Not to destroy you, but to prove you, to test the strength of your foundation, to refine your commitment. Most people misread struggle. They think it means stop, but it actually means you're close. You don't get pushback from life unless you're pushing forward. You don't feel overwhelmed unless you're stretching into something new. That pressure, that confusion, that weariness, that's what growth feels like, and the more intense it becomes, the closer you are to the shift. It's like climbing a mountain. The air gets thinner the higher you go. The trail gets steeper. Your legs start to burn, but you don't turn around because of the pain. You know the view is coming. You know the sum. It is just around the bend. And even though everything in your body wants to quit, something deeper inside whispers, keep going. You're almost there. The same applies to your goals, your vision, your calling. If it didn't matter, you wouldn't feel the struggle. If it wasn't real, you wouldn't be tested. Life doesn't challenge the ones going nowhere. It challenges the ones who dare to move forward. So if it feels like everything's falling apart, maybe it's actually falling into place. Sometimes the breakdown is the breakthrough. Sometimes what looks like an ending is actually a beginning in disguise. But to see it that way, you've got to shift your mindset. You've got to start treating resistance like confirmation. You've got to start seeing struggle as a sign that you're building something too strong to fall, too real to fake. You weren't put here to have an easy ride. You were born with potential, and potential demands pressure. You don't unlock greatness by strolling through life. You unlock it when you're pushed, pulled, stretched, challenged, and still keep showing up, still keep believing, still keep fighting for the thing that lights your soul on fire. Every successful person you admire, every voice that moves you, every story that inspires you, they all walked through struggle. They all had moments when it felt like too much, moments when they wanted to quit. Moments when no one believed in them, when nothing worked, when their dream looked ridiculous, but they didn't stop. They understood something most don't. The darker the night, the closer the dawn. It's not always going to make sense in the moment. You'll question why it has to be so hard. You'll wonder if you're doing something wrong. But often, the struggle isn't there because you're on the wrong path. It's there because you're on the right one. You're waking up something powerful inside of you. You're shaking old habits. You're leaving behind who you were and stepping into who you're meant to be. And transitions like that, they're not smooth. They're not polite, they're messy, painful, even chaotic, but they are also sacred because something in you is being reborn, something in you is being carved out, stretched, and sharpened, and when you come out the other side, you'll see it clearly. This wasn't punishment. It was preparation. You're being conditioned for the life you said you wanted. You're being prepared to carry the blessing you asked for. You're being shaped to handle the weight of your own greatness. And that shaping doesn't happen on the mountaintop. It happens in the valley. It happens when the lights are off, when the applause is gone, when you're left alone with your thoughts and your willpower. That's where transformation begins, not in the comfort zones, but in the pressure zones, not when things are going smooth, but when everything in you is being tested. That's when your future is being decided, not by luck, not by talent, but by your grit, by your refusal to quit, by your ability to say, "This is hard, but I'm still moving." You've got to trust the process. You've got to believe that the storm is not meant to drown you, but to teach you how to sail. You've got to trust that what you're feeling now is temporary, but who you're becoming will last forever. You've got to know that the struggle you're in is shaping you in ways you can't even see yet. And maybe right now, nothing feels certain. Maybe the road is foggy and your strength is running thin. That's okay, because clarity doesn't always come before commitment. Sometimes you've got to take the next step, even when you can't see the whole path. Sometimes your greatest growth happens when you walk by faith, not by sight. That's what struggle demands, not perfection, not speed, not ease, but faith. Faith that every ounce of pain has purpose. Faith that every setback is setting something up. Faith that your efforts are not wasted, because they're not. You're planting seeds even when the soil looks dry. You're laying bricks even when the building isn't finished. You're doing the work even when the reward hasn't shown up yet. And one day, when you least expect it, the breakthrough will come, not as a lightning bolt, but as a result of everything you pushed through, everything you refused to give up on, everything you held on to when it didn't make sense to keep holding. That's what struggle is. It's the evidence that something is shifting. It's the sign that the old you is falling away and the new you is emerging. You're not struggling because you're failing. You're struggling because you're becoming. And the more intense it feels, the more powerful the result. That's how life works. It builds you in the shadows before it reveals you in the light. It tests your foundation before it lifts you higher. It breaks the surface before it delivers the bloom. 3. Champions are made when they keep going, not when it's easy. That's the truth most people overlook. See, anyone can move forward when things are smooth. Anyone can look confident when life's in their favor, when money's coming in, when people are cheering, when opportunities are flowing. But that's not what makes someone a champion. What really defines a champion is what they do when it's hard. When there's no applause, when the lights are off, when nobody's watching and everything feels like it's falling apart, that's the test. That's the moment that separates the average from the exceptional. Because here's the thing, life isn't about who starts strong, it's about who finishes, it's about who stays in the game when every part of them wants to quit, it's about who keeps showing up, who keeps swinging, who keeps believing, especially when it doesn't make sense to. You've got to understand something. When you're building something meaningful, whether it's a dream, a business, a mindset, or a new version of yourself, there will be resistance. There will be days you don't feel motivated. There will be moments when the results don't match the effort. There will be silence when you hoped for feedback, doors that stay shut, people who turn their backs, but champions keep going anyway. It's not about having superhuman strength or endless energy. It's about making a choice, again and again, to rise when you've fallen, to step forward when you're afraid, to keep pushing when everything in you says, stop. That's how champions are made. Not in one big dramatic moment, but in 1,000 quiet ones, when they choose persistence over comfort, resilience over relief. Most people think champions are born with some secret gift, but the real gift is grit. It's not talent that takes you the distance. It's the will to keep going when the motivation disappears. You can be the smartest, the most skilled, the most connected. But if you quit when things get tough, none of that matters. Grit eats talent for breakfast when things get real, and things will get real. There's a moment in every journey when you'll want to quit, when the plan doesn't work, when the people you trusted fall away. When it feels like you've been walking forever and you still haven't reached the mountaintop. That moment is everything. It's where the internal battle begins, and here's the truth. If you can push through that, you're already different. You've already stepped into the mindset of a champion. Champions are not driven by how they feel. They're driven by what they decide. Feelings are fleeting. One day you feel strong, the next you feel stuck. But decisions, they shape your path. A champion wakes up and says, no matter how I feel today, I'm doing the work. I'm keeping the promise. I'm honoring the vision. They don't wait for the perfect mood. They create momentum by taking action, no matter what. That's the thing most people never understand. They're waiting to feel ready, waiting for the conditions to be right, waiting for a sign that now is the time. But champions don't wait. They move even when it's dark, even when they are unsure, even when they are exhausted. They trust that the motion will lead to progress, and that progress will create belief. And belief, that's the fuel that keeps the fire going. You've got to dig deep and find that part of you that refuses to fold, that part that says, I may be tired, but I'm not done, that part that says, this is hard, but I'm harder. Champions learn to talk to themselves, not listen to the voice of doubt. They rewire their inner dialogue. They don't feed their fears. They feed their focus, and that focus keeps them grounded when everything around them is shaking. Look at any champion you admire and you'll see scars. You'll see seasons of loneliness, of setbacks, of uncertainty. What you won't see is them giving up, because they understood something. The path to greatness is not a straight line. It's a series of falls and rises, of wins and losses, of highs and lows. But the one thing that remains constant is their decision to keep moving. Champions embrace the process. They fall in love with the grind. Not because it's easy, but because they know what it's building. They know that every early morning, every late night, every repetition, every sacrifice, it's not wasted, it's compounding. It's shaping them into someone who can handle the weight of success, someone who won't crack under pressure, someone who's earned it. You can't fake that. You can't cheat your way to true strength. It comes from going through the fire and refusing to let it consume you. It comes from staring down fear and still stepping forward. Champions walk through storms and come out sharper, not because they're invincible, but because they refuse to stop walking. People always ask, what's the secret? The truth is, there's no secret. It's just hard work, done consistently, with a belief that the breakthrough will come if you just don't give up. It's waking up every day with the mindset that no matter what happens, you're not turning back. That you've burned the boats. That quitting is not even an option on the table. It's this relentlessness that separates the temporary from the timeless. Most folks dabble. They try for a little while. They test the waters, but champions commit. They go all in, and because of that, they earn the results others only dream about. Champions also understand the power of small steps. They don't get discouraged by how far they have to go. They focus on what they can do today. They break it down one rep at a time, one call at a time, one page, one workout, one habit. They trust that small things done daily create big changes over time. And that mindset, that's unstoppable. There's nothing glamorous about grinding in silence. There's no spotlight when you're practicing in the dark. But that's exactly where champions are made, in the quiet hours. In the mundane, in the repetition, in the lonely moments where nobody else believes, but they still do. That's where greatness is forged. And yes, there will be days you feel broken. Days where everything seems to be working against you. That's normal, but those are the exact days that build your foundation. If you only showed up when you felt good, you'd never reach your potential. Champions show up no matter what, because they know that consistency is more powerful than intensity. It's not about going hard once. It's about going steady always. It's about showing up when you're inspired and showing up when you're not. It's about discipline. Champions train themselves to follow through. Even when it's boring, even when it's inconvenient, even when the results are delayed, they learn to honor their commitment, not their comfort, and over time that commitment compounds. It turns into mastery. It turns into impact. It turns into legacy. Because while others were chasing shortcuts, champions were building a foundation. While others were waiting for motivation, champions were moving on mission. That's the real secret. Keep going, keep building, keep believing, not because it's easy, but because that's where your power lies, not in the wins, but in the refusal to quit during the losses, not in the applause, but in the ability to perform even in silence. That's what makes a champion, for your mind will try to trick you when you're tired, discouraged, or under pressure. It's sneaky like that. It doesn't shout all at once, it whispers, softly at first, then louder over time. It tells you stories like you're not enough. This isn't working. You should give up. And if you're not careful, if you don't take control of the conversation happening in your head, it'll win. Not because you're weak, but because you let those thoughts run the show unchecked. The human mind is powerful, more powerful than most people ever realize. It can either be your greatest weapon or your worst enemy. And when you're under pressure, when everything feels heavy, when the walls are closing in, that's when the mind gets loud. Not the real you, but the part of you that's scared. That old voice, the one that's been shaped by years of doubt, fear, failure, and other people's opinions. That voice loves hard times. It thrives when you're vulnerable. When you're tired, it starts pushing old narratives. What's the point? Why keep going? You'll never make it. But those thoughts, they aren't facts. They're echoes of your past. They're learned limitations, and unless you catch them, question them, and replace them, they'll start building a cage around your potential. Most people don't even realize that they're being controlled by their own inner dialogue. They think thoughts just happen, but here's the truth. They don't. Thoughts are habits. You've rehearsed certain ideas so many times that they became automatic, and that means you can rewire them, you can challenge them. You can speak back and say, no, not this time, I'm not falling for that. But it takes awareness. You've got to be present enough to catch the trick while it's happening. You've got to be honest with yourself and say, wait a minute. This voice in my head, is it helping me or hurting me? Is it pushing me forward or pulling me back? Is it reminding me of who I am or just feeding me fear? And here's where things shift. When you stop taking every thought at face value, when you start talking to yourself instead of listening from yourself, you begin to flip the script. You stop reacting to your thoughts and start leading them. That's where your power lies. That's how you stop the spiral, because your mind doesn't care about your dreams. It cares about your safety. It was built to protect you, not to stretch you. So when you step outside your comfort zone, when you chase a goal that feels risky or uncertain, your mind rings the alarm. It doesn't understand that the discomfort is growth. All it sees is danger. So it says, slow down, back off, go back to what's familiar. But champions don't listen to that voice. They've trained themselves to recognize it for what it is, a survival mechanism, not a truth teller. They understand that fear has a job, but so do they, and their job is to lead, to push forward, to override the default setting and say, yes, this is uncomfortable, yes, this is scary, but I choose to keep going. And you know what? The more you do that, the quieter the lies become. They don't disappear forever, but you stop believing them, you stop giving them authority, you stop letting them dictate your direction, and every time you override those thoughts, you rewire your brain. You create a new path, one rooted in courage, not fear, but it takes repetition. Just like you didn't build your current mindset overnight, you won't rebuild it overnight either. This is a process, a daily decision. A commitment to mental discipline. That means feeding your mind the right input, reading things that stretch you, listening to voices that empower you, speaking words that reinforce your worth, because if you don't program your mind, someone else will. The world is loud. Social media, news, opinions, they're all competing for space in your head, and if you're not careful, you'll start thinking other people's fears are your own. That's why you've got to be the gatekeeper. You've got to guard your thoughts like your future depends on it, because it does. You have to interrupt the patterns. When you catch yourself spiraling, you've got to pause and ask, is this thought helpful? Is it kind? Is it based in truth? And if it's not, you don't have to entertain it. You can say, thank you for trying to protect me, but I've got this, and then take actions. Small or big, doesn't matter, as long as it's forward. That's how you break the cycle. That's how you train your mind to serve you instead of sabotage you. You act your way out of the spiral. You move even when the thought says don't. You speak life even when the mind feeds doubt. You keep going even when the inner voice screams stop. And let's be real, there will be days when the voice is louder than usual. When you're worn down, when you didn't sleep well, when something triggered an old memory or insecurity, that's normal, but that's not the time to give in. That's the time to double down. To pull out every tool in your kit, affirmations, prayer, journaling, movement, whatever it takes, to regain control of the conversation in your head, because your thoughts are not neutral, they are seeds. And what you plant grows, so if you let fear run wild, guess what? More fear grows. But if you start planting faith in yourself, in the process, in your ability to figure it out, then strength grows. Clarity grows, courage grows, and over time you start to notice something. The same situation that used to break you now barely shakes you. The thoughts that used to paralyze you now bounce off like static. Not because life got easier, but because you got stronger, because you stopped falling for the trick, because you realized that the loudest voice in the room doesn't have to be the most truthful. This is what separates those who rise from those who stay stuck. Not resources, not luck, not connections, but the ability to take control of their inner world, to choose the narrative, to lead from within, even when everything outside is chaos. That's why your mindset is everything. It's not just about being positive, it's about being powerful, about knowing that your thoughts shape your beliefs, and your beliefs shape your actions, and your actions shape your reality. It all starts in the mind. So when things get hard, don't just look outward, look inward. What are you telling yourself? What meaning are you assigning to the pain? Because two people can go through the exact same struggle. One breaks, the other breaks through. The difference, the story they tell themselves about what's happening. Are you telling yourself this is the end or the beginning, a punishment or preparation, a setback or a setup? The story matters. The way you frame your experience determines how you experience it. So if you want to change your life, start by changing the story. And remember this, it's okay to feel doubt. It's okay to feel tired. It's okay to have low moments, but what's not okay is to let those feelings write your future. You're in charge. You decide what happens next. You decide if you retreat or rise. You decide if you believe the lie or challenge it. So when your mind starts playing tricks, when it tells you you're not ready, not worthy, not capable, don't just sit there, don't feed it, fight back, speak the truth out loud. I've been through worse. I've made it this far. I'm not done yet. Because sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is talk to yourself like someone you love. You've got to be your own coach, your own cheerleader, your own protector. You've got to stand guard over your thoughts and say, not today. You've got to remind yourself who you are, what you're made of, and why you started. Because if you don't, that sneaky voice will take over, and it doesn't care about your potential. It only cares about your comfort. But you weren't made for comfort. You were made to grow, to lead, to rise, and to do that, you've got to stop falling for the tricks your mind plays when it's scared. You've got to recognize them, reframe them, and rise above them. That's the work. That's the discipline. That's the real battle most people never learn how to fight. 5. Pain has a purpose. That's not just some feel-good slogan. It's a truth most people never grasp because they're too busy trying to run from pain, numb it, avoid it, or pretend it's not there. But pain, when you face it with intention, becomes one of the most powerful tools for transformation you'll ever encounter. It's not the enemy, it's the messenger, and when the going gets hard, that pain you feel, it's not trying to break you, it's trying to wake you. Every great person you admire, every achiever, every legend, every leader, they all have one thing in common. They didn't escape pain. They learned from it. They allowed it to refine them, to strip away the parts of themselves that weren't serving their highest calling, and they came out on the other side tougher, wiser, sharper, not in spite of the pain, but because of it. See, pain is honest. It doesn't lie. It doesn't care about your ego or how things look on the outside. It gets straight to the root, and that's exactly why most people run from it. They're afraid of what it might reveal. But if you're willing to sit with it, listen to it, let it do its work, it'll show you exactly where you need to grow. When you're in pain, your heart's wide open. That's when truth gets in. That's when clarity starts to rise. Because when everything's going smoothly, when you're cruising through life without resistance, it's easy to get lazy. It's easy to get distracted by noise, fall into comfort, or start chasing things that don't even matter. But when pain hits, suddenly everything becomes clear. Suddenly you remember what's important, that clarity, that burning discomfort. It's not punishment, it's pruning, it's stripping away the unnecessary. It's life's way of removing the fluff, the excuses, the distractions. Pain forces you to confront reality. It makes you look at yourself, your patterns, your choices, and that kind of awareness is a gift, because you can't change what you don't confront. Most people only look for answers when they're desperate. When the pain gets too loud to ignore, then they start seeking truth, and guess what? That's not a bad thing. Desperation isn't weakness. It's just pressure. And pressure creates diamonds. You're being shaped, even if it doesn't feel like it right now. You're being carved into a version of yourself you can't even fully imagine yet. But the carving hurts. The refining process always does. And still, here's the paradox. Your pain is proof that you're alive, that you care, that you're engaged in the fight. The only people who don't feel pain are the ones who have already given up. But you're still here, you're still pushing. That alone says something about your spirit. The world teaches us to numb pain, to drown it in distractions, to silence it with busyness, with comfort, with fake positivity. But real growth, that happens when you lean in instead of numbing out, when you say, all right, I'm listening, what are you trying to teach me? That's when pain becomes powerful. That's when the suffering starts to shift into wisdom. There's a lesson inside every hardship, every heartbreak, every dark season. But you have to be willing to dig. You have to be willing to look beyond the surface and ask the deeper questions. Why did this shake me so much? What belief got exposed in me? Where did I put my identity that wasn't solid? Questions like these, they turn pain into a teacher, not a tormentor. And let's be honest, it's not easy. Nobody wants to hurt. Nobody wants to sit in the fire. But the fire has a way of burning away the lies we've told ourselves. It reveals the real foundation we're building on. And sometimes you have to be broken open to finally become whole. You have to be emptied before you can be filled with something stronger. Pain exposes your limits, but it also expands them. You find out just how far you can stretch, how much you can carry, how much resilience you've got buried beneath the surface. You discover capacities you didn't even know existed. Because the truth is, comfort doesn't build strength. Resistance does, struggle does, the hard days are what forge the inner steel, and here's something else. Pain connects you to other people. When you've been through it, when you've felt the sting of failure, the ache of disappointment, the weight of not knowing how you're gonna make it, you gain empathy. You stop judging people so quickly. You start seeing hearts instead of just behaviors. That connection, that depth, it only comes from pain. You also start trusting yourself more. Every time you make it through something hard, even when you didn't think you could, you build confidence. Not the loud kind, not the showy kind, the quiet kind that lives in your bones, the kind that whispers, "I've been through worse and made it." That's real confidence, and it can't be faked. It's earned in the trenches of adversity. Pain is also a spotlight. It shows you what's out of alignment. It reveals what's not working. It highlights the places in your life that need attention, healing, or transformation. If you pay attention, it'll guide you not away from yourself, but back to yourself. Back to your values, back to your calling, back to what truly matters, and the more you embrace it, not in a masochistic way, but in a purposeful way, the less scary it becomes. You stop fearing pain and start using it. You stop seeing setbacks as curses and start seeing them as courses. Intense courses in growth, in strength, in purpose. There's a sacredness to suffering that the world doesn't talk about much, because we're taught to chase happiness, chase ease, chase quick wins. But some of the most beautiful things in life are born from struggle. Think about it. Roses grow through thorns. Gold is purified in fire. Trees grow strongest when they've faced the wind. So when you're hurting, when the pressure is crushing, when you feel like you're being torn apart, remind yourself something sacred is happening, something deep, something foundational. You're not breaking down, you're breaking open. And that openness, that vulnerability, is where the light gets in, but you've got to be willing to stay with it. Don't run, don't numb, don't shrink. Look pain in the eye and say, "I see you, I feel you, but I'm not backing down." And then let it do what it came to do. Let it shape you, let it humble you, let it fuel you, because once you've walked through pain and made it to the other side, you carry a fire in you that nothing can extinguish. You've faced the storm and stood tall. You've seen the worst and didn't fold, and that kind of strength, it becomes a part of who you are. It gives you an edge, a presence, a power that no one can take away. So the next time life hits hard, don't just ask, "Why me?" Ask, "What is this teaching me?" Don't just wish it away. Use it, let it sharpen your focus, let it purify your motives, let it solidify your mission. The pain you're feeling now, it's the fuel for your next level, and don't forget, pain can't last forever. It may stay a while. It may sit heavy on your chest for a season, but like all storms, it passes. What stays behind is what you've become through it, and that version of you, that's the one you've been waiting for. But here's the real secret. Pain is also the birthplace of passion. You start to care more deeply. You start to live more intentionally. You stop wasting time on petty things and start leaning into purpose. Because when you've hurt deeply, you start to live deeply. So whatever pain you're in right now, don't wish it away too quickly. Sit with it, listen, learn, and most of all, let it shape you, because what comes out on the other side isn't just stronger, it's wiser, it's deeper, it's unstoppable, and that version of you, that's the one the world needs. That's the one your purpose requires. That's the one your future is waiting for.